took just like the whole thing of just sitting and touching the strings and playing, and there's something really nice about playing the guitar finger style that has a kind of a warmth to it, and there's a real connection to the strings. I've made many records which have just been a matter of going in, setting up the sound and playing melody. Break up the bass line, you get improvise on the top, you get.
It was the instrument, you know. I mean, that's rock and roll was the thing.
Well, here we have it, the one that started it all, 1950 broadcaster.
Hi, this is Steve Morse, and you're watching The Guitar Show.
My Uncle Ernie used to bring his guitar around, this old Maton. I used to sit and play it. And it was a big guitar, and I was only a little kid, and I used to hold it like that, you know. But my arm over it. My mum used to put it down and start playing it. And I was just hooked, just like the whole thing of just sitting and touching the strings and playing and, you know, producing the sound out of a guitar. It's always been, you know, when you play a guitar, every guitar has its own kind of sweet spot where you can find that's where it really sounds good. And I just found I had a natural feeling for that, for finding where to play the guitar, where it sounded its best. See, you get different sounds out of a note just by where you play with the right hand here. And finding these really like the sweet spot. The very first thing on the guitar was and actually a number of guitar players have told me the same thing. Remember this? That was really the whole attraction of playing jazz for me, was this idea of improvising. I always had great difficulty if I learnt a tune or learnt a piece of music to play it the same every time. So I couldn't have been a classical guitar player because I haven't got that kind of mind to really study something and perfect it to sound in a certain way, and then that's it, that's the way you play it from then on. And I know a lot of classical players that speak to me, and have spoken to me about it, and say that sometimes they would like to change things, but it's a form of music where you can't do that, and even if you change things very slightly or interpret things in a certain way, you can come under a lot of criticism. So I didn't really want to do that, and the pop music that was happening at the time, and you know, a lot of rock and roll the Beatles, Elvis, the Rolling Stones, it didn't interest me in the same way because there wasn't that same element of improvisation. I like a lot of music from from like the 20s and 30s. There were great guitar players at that time: Eddie Lang, Carl Crest, Dick McDonough, and they were the pioneers of jazz guitar. And I love that music. I love that era, and the guitars from that period as well. I have a collection of vintage guitars as well. And so if I'm sitting at home, sometimes I'll pull down a guitar from the wall and sit down and start playing something. And it's very funny because when you play a guitar, you can pick up somebody else's guitar, and very often the guitar will suggest to you what to play on it. It's a certain type of instrument. You know, if you picked up a Fender Strat, you wouldn't sit, doesn't make you immediately think of playing a piece of Tarrega. Or if you're picking up a Martin flat top, one of the 000 models or something, you're not going to play kind of a Wes Montgomery thing. It's got that kind of open, bright, warm sound about it. So I'll pick up guitars and say a guitar from the 20s, and I'll sit down and start playing something from that era. Or sometimes just make something up that's just got that kind of feel. So if I was picking up a guitar from the 20s, then I'd be more inclined to sort of play I never use a plectrum when I'm playing solo, but in other things, when I'm playing with a band, then I would use a plectrum. But less and less. I haven't got the same speed for playing single string things with fingers, and you can't get the same kind of attack. But there's something really nice about playing the guitar finger style that it has a kind of a warmth to it, and there's a real connection to the strings. And a number of guitar players that have really taken to that more. I mean, Joe Pass, he hardly used a pick at all. Martin Offler doesn't use a pick. Jeff Beck hasn't used a pick for a long time. And there's a nice connection to the strings, being able to actually play fingerstyle rather than using a pick. And whenever I can, I play fingerstyle. I've made many records which has just been a matter of going in, setting up the sound and playing. You know, I've done a couple of albums that were really recorded in a couple of hours, just a few hours. So it depends what you want to capture. You know, if you really want to capture that spontaneity, then just going in and playing is really good. If I was doing another album completely solo, then it would just be a matter of getting the sound right and going in and playing. In fact, on this album, on Nightlife, there are some solo tracks on there as well as the things with the band. And that was just a matter of getting the sound right, and then I went in and they were first takes. I don't believe that you have to do take after take to get it right. Very often, the first one can be the right one or the second one. So they're just different ways of doing it, really. So when you really play 2 or 3 notes at any time, I very rarely play a large chord. So I broke everything down then into being bass chords and melody. So I'd have the melody on the top. With the bass line of that would be... Then with the melody we have... Turn that bass line into a walking bass line, we have... turn it into like a double bass player kind of feel, you get this. With the melody. And then you can put the chords in the middle, which is kind of the left hand of the piano. This is the seventh, like a major seventh, and the third of the note. So you have very close voicings, only two notes. This kind of thing. So you have. Which doesn't make much sense until you bring the melody into the bass in. So you've got this. Melody. Break up the bass line, you get. Improvise on the top, you get. So I've got three parts going all of the time. I think everybody has to find their own way of playing. You find the best way to do what you want to do, which is really to make the music. And if it works, it's fine.
I started playing guitar when I was 12 years old in the early 60s, and it was like, it was the instrument, you know. I mean, that's, rock and roll was the thing, you know. We started playing Chuck Berry, I grew up with the music, so it wasn't even a second thought. The almighty groove is so important, and you can point to pivotal records of grooves that, you know, that just captured it, you know. I mean, the laid back groove, you know, Baby What You Want Me to Do, Jimmy Reed, the Bo Diddley thing, you know, Hey Bo Diddley, you know, the John Lee Hooker boogie thing. So they're just like, those grooves, when you hear that, that's why they've had such monumental influence. The other main stage instrument is a 016 New Yorker. It's a Martin. That's really the sound that I'm known most for, because it has an old DeArmond pickup, and it gets a pretty big sound out of that baby. And you don't really get, it's, you know, when you look at a guitar like that, you think a small acoustic. It's not going to be as forceful of an electric sound, but it's because of that pickup and the way it's a small body. It's a 3/4 body. You can't calculate a guy like John Lee Hooker's influence. Well, I played with John for 4 years, from 82 to 86. 4 great years on the road with John, and we just became very close friends. Other than like being a sideman in the band. I mean, we're like family. I can just say that, because we formed a bond, and that friendship led to him asking me to produce his record. Beat is the key, and the rhythm, and I think I am a rhythmic player, and the rhythm is so important for the feel of the music, and that has always been real crucial to me. Not just the hot licks, but the rhythm, because that's the pulse.
Hi, I'm Tommy Emmanuel, and I'd like to talk with you about how I record my acoustic guitar. We like to get all the frequencies and all the sounds that you hear. If you put your head in front of the guitar and move it around like that, the different tones and frequencies is exactly what we're looking for, and we use microphones to pick those up, and the microphone goes into a preamp and a compressor, and that makes the signal really big and fat and jump right out of the speakers and come to life. So you've got a certain sound here, you've got a certain sound here, then you've got more mid-range back here. So I do a mixture of the microphones to get one big fat tone. For my album only, we used 4 microphones, and they were the Neumann 149 right in front, and we had a Neumann U87 up here. We had a AKG 414 over here, and back here behind the bridge we had a German mic called a Geffel, and so the combination of those 4 mics is what captured the sound. Plus I have a under the saddle pickup here, and I have another little microphone inside the guitar, and I can kind of mix that in. So we just do a combination of all those things and to get one big juicy sound. So there it is, simple but effective. So I'd like to play a song from the album for you now.
Well, here we have it, the one that started it all, 1950 Broadcaster. I'm Steve Jackson from Jackson's Rare Guitars in Sydney, Australia, and I'd like to talk about the Fender Broadcaster. This particular model was the one that Fender were asked to change the name in 1951 by Gretsch, and then they came up with the Telecaster. There was a 3-month period where the guitar had no name at all on here except for Fender, and so those guitars are affectionately known as the No-Caster. This is a very early Broadcaster. It has the very early flat screws, pre-Phillips head in holding the original neck on here. Fender also used the 6 on the side machine heads, where Gibson and other companies at the time were using 3 aside, either side of the headstock. The use of Bakelite in through here on the guard, And the original ones like this had very early numbers in here. This one is a very early serial number, very hard to see. It's a little rusty, but it's 1803. Looking back through Fender's history, it's reported that they made as little as 300 of these instruments. It has a one-piece maple neck, which was once again revolutionary for 1950s. Gibson were using mahogany and ebony fingerboards and rosewood fingerboards. And just a very, very exciting instrument. This one has butterscotch finish, and butterscotch ran up to 1954 on these instruments, and has 2 pickups in here, unlike the Esquires of the period, which were a single pickup only in the rear. Today on the market, an original finish, untouched, in a similar condition to this, is in excess of about $25,000, $30,000 US, and rising.
You can't calculate a guy like John Lee Hooker's influence, because it's just amazing when you look at the times of how that music, you know, influenced so many different people. It's quite amazing. It's quite amazing.
One bourbon, one scotch, and one bill. I say, hey, Mr. Bartender, come here. Want another drink and I want it now. The girl, she gone, she been gone tonight. I haven't seen the girl, not a whole leg. I wanna get drunk and get her on my mind. One bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. Then I sit there, drinking, getting high, mellow, feeling good. After a while, go down the bar, at the bartender, I say, hey, what do you want? One bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. Well, the girl, she gone tonight. I haven't seen the girl, not a full leg. I wanna get drunk, get her on my mind. One bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. Then I sit there again. I would knock your bone stone. After a while, I looked down the bar at the bartender. I said, hey, man, what do you want now? One bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. Well, the girl, she gone tonight. I ain't seen the girl, not a full leg. Wanna get drunk, get her on my mind. One bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. Sit there again. After a while, I looked on the wall, at the clock on the wall. By that time, we're getting a little late. And I looked down the bar, at the bartender. I said, hey, what do you want? One bourbon, one scotch, one beer.